Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Yeah, this is the Death Star remix, Chris. That's right. Round two. Whew, in the ring. Ready to make this work. Say real quick hi to everybody. All right, so those of you that were around the other day, yesterday, or 2 days ago, we tried doing the Death Star. We kind of started with this idea of doing the Death Star with just some procedural nodes, and I was kind of thinking it was going to be a very simple beginner style tutorial that'd be just fun. Turned out it was really complicated, and we totally bombed. But we learned some cool things, and we got some really good tips and tricks kind of figured out, and I kind of got a good approach going, but we just ran out of time. Anyways, I kind of went off stream and messed around a little bit more with it later on last night, and came up with some other ideas, simplified the approach a little bit, and we're going to do it again. This time I'm going to try, once again, I'm going to try and record this for a tutorial, so I'm going to try and do it in like one straight run, and yeah, I think I can get it to work. So anyways, I hope you're excited, and let's do it. I'm going to go ahead and select all and delete my scene, and I will start my record. Let me know, as always, if the stream starts going crazy or doesn't quite work or something, glitches out. Just let me know, because sometimes I'm not always aware that that's happening. And yeah, hey everybody, hi Kay, hey Culture, nice to see everybody. Welcome, pile in. We're gonna have some fun today. I'm gonna try and stick to about an hour today. In fact, I'll get my timer up just so I have that going. I don't want to go too long, and I'll just bring this up, and I'll try and, let me see, I'll do this so that I don't do anything under my portrait. Right, just switch this to something that won't be doing anything. We'll do the text editor. All right, you guys ready? Let's do this. All right, hello and welcome to another exciting Blender tutorial. Today we're going to be making the Death Star with procedural nodes and as little modeling as possible. Let's do it. Okay, so we had one run at this already. Didn't quite work out. This is my second run at doing this, so hopefully I'll be able to communicate these ideas a bit clearer this time, and we'll have something that works really well. So the goal with this tutorial is to talk about how we can use procedural nodes to make some really intricate stuff. Our goal is to make the Death Star 2, so the one that's kind of under construction, right, from Return of the Jedi. And we're going to do all that sort of construction stuff and try and make all that happen with nothing but procedural nodes. So it's going to be really cool. Hope you're excited. Buckle up. Let's do it. Okay, so I've got a blank scene ready to go, and I'm going to start off by making just a UV sphere. So I'm going to go Mesh, UV sphere. Scale it up a little bit. Also go ahead and get a camera in place in my scene, so I've got something to look through in a consistent view. So I'll just lock my camera to view, and I'll just pick a nice little frame. Doesn't matter too much at the moment. And I'll do my usual cinematic 2:3:5 ratio. So I'll go 1080 times 2.35, and that gives me that cinematic ratio of 2:3:5. So it looks like a movie. All right, and I'm also going to turn on Passepartout. Where is it? There it is. Mon français est très bien. Tous les temps. Okay, here we go. And let's unlock our camera view. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we need to understand that with the Death Star, there's specific patterning that goes on across its surface. And it's easy to think that, well, what I found in the trap of was thinking I could just create some just generic procedural square patterning, and it would just work if I used a generated texture node or like the object texture input and placed it on there. But it doesn't actually. It's actually really important that we use UVs to make this work. That's really the main way that I figured out to do it, is to use the UV coordinate system. Now, that may not make a lot of sense to you if you're new to all this stuff, but oui que je parle français, un peu. J'ai étudié français en école pour 5 ans. Anyway, sorry, I'll do this in English for everyone. But I wondered if you were from France, Kay. I saw you said you were in Paris time. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de Français ici en Australie. Seulement les touristes. La touriste? Les touristes? Je ne sais pas. Okay. I'll stop showing off. Let's do this. I want to demonstrate this first real quick. So I'm going to split my viewer and I'm going to come over here to my shader editor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my sphere. I'll go ahead and call this the Death Star. And I'll go over here to my shader, create a new shader. There we go. Well, that took a while. It was suspicious. That was a suspicious delay from Blender. I'll call this Death Star as well. Oh, cool. We got a couple French people. Nice. Oh, cool. Belgium. Nice. All right. So, oh man, 1 in the morning. Ooh, coup panique. Rough. C'est triste. All right. So with the Death Star, when you have just like a straight up material. So let's see. I'll just grab a Veroni and I'll just do this to demonstrate what's going on here because I want you guys to understand this. I'm going to switch to Manhattan because that gives us a square-like pattern. And I'm going to pipe this into the emission. I'll go ahead and turn on rendered view. And I will get, let's see, a color ramp. Here we go. And I'm going to drag this up just to kind of, make it a bit firmer for us so that we can really see what's happening. In fact, I might even make this constant. And I'll drag this out. And I'm going to grab a mapping node. Again, I want to just take the time to do this because I think that it's important to explain what I'm about to do. All right, so I'll rotate it 45 on the, I think it's on the X maybe. Nope. We may not be able to get to it with the circle. Yeah, that's right. We don't actually get to it with the circle. Anyways, so with the Death Star, let me get the image here. Death Star images. And let's get one that's nice big size for everybody. Is that a big size? That's big enough. All right. Let me pop this over here. Bring this over here. Now let's talk about what we're looking at. So with the Death Star, we've got these like square panels. And what happens is they move towards the pole, so the top of the sphere and the bottom of the sphere. You can see they get smaller as they go and they kind of wrap down to the bottom. It's a very distinct look, okay? Now, if we want to get that look, we need to be able to effectively control the shape of our grid system so that it fits in that space. I could probably demonstrate this better with a brick texture. So let me just, or even a grid, was it checker? Yeah, checker texture. I'll grab a checker texture instead. We can have a look at that. I think this will be clearer. And I'll stick this into the emission. Okay, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to show you. So you can see we get these weird like overlapping concentric circles. And that's because we're using the generated texture coordinate method to try and place this checker texture on the sphere. And you can see it's not placing it in a way that looks like the Death Star. Okay, a Death Star doesn't have these concentric circle things going on. Now we could try like object, right? But it's going to be the same kind of thing. It's trying to use the UV coordinates of the object in such a way that it can just like, position for us. But anyways, we're not getting the control we want. However, with this sphere, the default layout for the UVs of the sphere, I'll just open up our UV editor. I'll go into edit mode and I'll select all. You can see that so with all the default sort of generic objects, mesh objects in Blender, they're already unwrapped for us. So if we had a cube, the UVs are already unwrapped. This sphere, the UVs are unwrapped in a way that works well. And you can see what it's done is it's actually cut all the UVs up here at the pole. All these UVs like this, they've all been cut. And it's laid out all of these guys in a grid where everything's the same size, the same proportional size. So now watch, if I use the UV, okay, as my texture coordinate, suddenly now things are lined up correctly. Okay. And this is essential for getting this specific shape in this texture, right? We need things laid out in this grid format because now look, I can like take all these guys and I can scale them on the Y, and like scale it on the X and get get this kind of like lined shape that we really want to see for our Death Star. Okay, so that's the first concept I wanted to get across. Okay, I'm going to undo all that, and I'll just get rid of my UV editor for a moment. And what we're going to do is we are going to take. We can actually delete. I can delete all this stuff as well. We're just going to start fresh again. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is we're going to be making the eye of the Death Star, which is that that central eye shape right here. This thing. Now, in order to punch a hole in our circular geometry and get this eye to work properly, we need to model it first off. We can't really use a bool or anything like that because we're not going to get a nice clean edge. So we're going to model it in. But in order to model it, we also want to model it in a way that's not going to really affect the UVs such that we get a seam or that things break up near it. And this is actually a real big challenge when using UVs. In order to help us do that, I want to get a nice smooth sphere. So I want to use a subdivision surface, but I don't want to leave it on. If you leave your subdivision surface on and we kind of model with this like lower polygon count, the subdivision surface is always going to kind of warp those UVs a little bit, especially around this seam that we're going to create to make this eye. And you can get a tearing effect. So to avoid that tearing effect, I actually want to apply my subdivision surface. So I'm working just with mesh and not any modifiers. So let's do that now, okay? So I'll just move my Death Star out of the way there. And let's see, I'm going to take my object here. I'm going to add in the subdivision surface modifier. And I'll just click on here so we can actually see it in edit mode. Also drag my windows out a little bit better. And I'm just going to do one subdivision. And I'm going, oops, undo that. Oh, well, let me undo it. Okay. I will add it back. Subdivision surface. I'm going to go 1. And I'm going to click right here in this little drop-down menu and click Apply. Okay, so now we've got a lot more mesh. Okay, I'm also going to right-click and shade smooth. But now I get a nice smooth contour around my circle, which is really the main goal of why I would use a subdivision surface there. But now also, more importantly, if I open up my UVs, let's have a look at those. You can see now we've still got this nice clean grid, but we've got like twice as much geometry. So everything's working properly. All right, now let's go ahead and plan out our object. So I'm going to jump back into my camera view just to have a look at where I want to place the eye. And one thing that I want to do is I want to avoid doing any geometry. I don't want to have this eye intersect our trench, right? Because the trench line is going to be where we make the Death Star trench, which is quite small. Now we're going to achieve it with I might save time and just model it. As opposed to using the material, but we'll see. I'll see how we're going with time. Let's go keep moving. Get my timer up. I want to make sure I don't lose it. All right. So let's go ahead and pick where we want the eye to be. If I bring over my reference image, it's fairly large. It's going to be a region about this big, I think. So let's see. I'm going to take my brush selection tool. I'm going to go to face mode and I'm going to select, let's see, just those 4 right there. And then I'm going to Control+ to expand my selection until I feel like I've got a space that encompasses the right amount of space, the right size for this circle thing. I also want to make sure I've got an even number of edges. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is work. So I've got it's divisible by 2. That's important for making this circle work, this trick that we're going to do. All right, so now that I've got that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these faces. Okay, so I'm going to hit X, delete faces. Then I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm just going to click right there on one of these edges, and that's going to select this loop for us. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is hit Shift-D to duplicate, and then I'm going to scale it down just a little bit like this. And then I'm going to hit F3 and I'm going to type to sphere. And this is the handy little trick. You can use this to sphere transform to basically turn any set of vertices into a sphere shape. Is there a to circle? That would be more convenient. No, there's not. All right, now when we do this, you're going to see that we get like this deformation because it's trying to actually turn it into a sphere. It's not just trying to turn it into a circle, and we don't want that. So let's hit S to scale. Actually, let's switch our. I'll turn on my little widget here so we can see the direction of our control. And I'm going to switch from global to normal. And normal is the direction that the points are facing. So the points are all facing in this direction. So if I go to my scale widget now, what I can do is I can scale along the Z here. I can just scale down. If I let go, it's going to give me this little drop down menu and I can just specify exactly what I want. So I actually want Z to be 0. And that means it's going to completely flatten all of those edges together, all those vertices together on the Z direction in the normal direction. All that stuff is working together. Anyways, yeah, hope that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to drag this out a little bit so it's kind of in line with the flow of everything, and I think that's going to work out pretty well. Now we could go into even more detail and like project this onto a surface of a sphere to get that exact curve, but I'm not so worried about it. I don't think it's going to matter for us. Now, because we have the same number of edges for both this circle and this outer square, what I can do now is I can hit F3 and I can type in grid fill. Or no, sorry, not grid fill. We want to use it's bridge edge loops. That's what it's called. Again, I'm using the F3 menu because I don't remember all the hotkeys. It's a really handy thing to remember. You can just hit F3 and type in whatever it is you're looking for if you can't remember something. And it's good. It's fuzzy search terms, so you don't have to be exact. You don't have to spell it right. You can kind of type it and not have it quite right, and it's going to work for you. So really, really, really good. All right, so we're going to go bridge edge loops. Bam, and that's going to bridge those edge loops. And that works well, remember, because we've got the same number of edges, because we actually just duplicated those edges and scaled them and turned them into a circle. So that's a really great trick for how do you model in a circular shape into something that's maybe not circular to begin with. Okay, now we've got our space here for our little Death Star eye. Now I'm going to select this loop by holding down Alt and clicking on one of those edges. You'll select that whole ring of edges. And now I want to use grid fill. All right, so we're going to type grid fill. There it is. And that's going to fill this in. I didn't expect that. I thought we would get some across. Why not? Oh, that's right. I remember actually there's a better way of doing this. Instead of grid fill, what we're going to do is we're going to hit E to extrude, and we're going to scale down and just bring it in a little bit like this. E again, scale it down. E again, scale it down. I'm trying to make these like kind of even. Actually, I try and like kind of getting smaller as we go. And scale it down. And scale it right down. Probably don't need to worry about this last one as much. All right, so now we've got the eye shape. Now we need to push this shape in. So in order to do that, we can keep our handles set on the normal direction. We can keep that center group of edges selected, right there. And now what we can do is I can turn on proportional editing and switch this, instead of smooth, switch it to sphere. And now we're going to be able to proportionally move all of these things, all these edges together in a sphere shape inward in the Z direction on the normal. So if I grab the blue handle here and grab that and start to slide, you can see I got this circle here. You may not see it. So if you don't see it, it just means it's too big for your view. So just scroll up on the mouse wheel like that until it's just affecting these sort of these circles specifically. So we don't want to affect anything beyond this group. So I'm just going to drag that in a bit. And so we've got that curved bowl shape. All right. Now we're raised up a little bit, so I'm going to select this edge and I'm going to turn off proportional editing, and I'll drag this one in just till this looks a little bit flatter. There we go. That's pretty good. Now I need to make an edge loop to start to clean up this mess. Okay. So I'm going to click Control R and I'm going to come right here and I'm going to bring this right up to there. And that just cleans up my edge a little bit, okay? Now, we are starting to get a bit more mess, and I'm starting to think a double edge loop. Yeah, that's all we needed is a double edge loop. Now we can see the edges, okay? So This is an argument for possibly still using a subdivision surface. It's going to make it nice and crisp and clean, but it is going to potentially affect our UVs. So it's debatable. We can leave it on for now and maybe see how it plays out. Okay. All right. Now let me just say hi to chat real quick because there's a lot going on. I haven't said hello to anybody. Hey, Culture. Oh, thanks. Glad you like that we've come back to this. I'm happy with where I think we're going to take it today. It's going to be really good. Adria Whisper. Hey, Elmo. Welcome everybody. Oh, this is great. Love seeing all the French in chat. This is cool. Okay, I haven't missed too much. Everybody's just going nuts for how many languages a Groby can speak. I mean, I'm impressed, but you live as many places as a Groby. I guess you're going to pick up a few languages. All right, so let's keep going. I've been going for about 18 minutes. Yep. All right, looking good. Stream's looking good. Everybody's happy. We're all happy. You guys having fun? Everybody having fun? One in chat if you're having fun. All right, so let's keep going. Next thing we want to do is begin to hash out our material for this guy. This is potentially all the modeling we need to do for this Death Star. Okay, we can achieve everything else with our materials and with shaders. We are going to have to take this, and I think we're going to separate this object out and use a separate material for the eye. Now, I do feel like it's looking a little bit small. Let me rotate it around. Yeah, that's not quite the right size. It's a little hard to judge. What we can do is we can grab that inner ring again, Control plus, just to expand our selection. And we could try and scale it up. But I'm worried if I scale it up, then it's just not going to work. I think I might just leave it and keep going. But bear in mind for yours, if it looks like this and you get to this point and you're like, oh, it's not quite the right size, really what you need to do is delete it and do it again. That's the cleanest way to do it. Because again, we don't want to affect our UVs around here. So what I would probably do in this case is expand my selection out to one more row, maybe two more rows to keep it even, and then try it again. But I think this will be fine. We'll be able to make this work. It's going to be our own unique take on the Death Star. Slightly smaller eye. All right. So let's keep going. All right, we're going to go into our shader now and start doing some shader magic. I'll turn on rendered view and I'll go ahead and get a light in my scene. I'll create a sun lamp and just rotate it off like this. And I might shift to duplicate, rotate this one around to the other side and just kind of offset it a bit like that. And then I'll turn the power down of this one just to kind of hit it a touch there. And this one I might turn up a little bit. This is kind of the classic lighting for the Death Star. You can see there's always this kind of like bright side and dark side. Light side and dark side. I never thought about that. Meta. Rotate this one just a little bit more, maybe. Around the side of it. Like that. Okay, we can go ahead and let's go ahead and set the mood as well and create some space. And I'll just grab a noise texture and a texture coordinate and a color ramp. Pop this here, factor into that. Take this, pop this into the background. Grab this over here, drag this up to boost our contrast. Take my scale up to about 600. Bring this down, this down. Maybe 10 on the strength and maybe 1,000 for my stars. It's pretty good. Now let's go back to object shader mode. Okay, so let's start figuring this out. Now, first thing that we need is get the paneling laid out. Okay, so let's create a texture coordinate node because remember we need to grab our UVs. And let's grab a Verona, one of my favorites, the Verona. We're going to switch to Manhattan because it gives us that nice squared shape that we can work with. And I'm also going to grab a mapping node, put them in between, and let's hook it all up. So we're going to go UV to the vector, vector to the vector, and let's grab a color ramp as usual. distance into the factor, and color into the, well, we'll just talk about what we're doing first. Now, I have activated Node Wrangler. I'll let that sink in for a second. If you want to activate Node Wrangler, you can come over here, Preferences, Add-ons, type in Node, and tick that little box. It will work. I'm going to do it today, guys. I'm going to use a bit of Node Wrangler. With Node Wrangler turned on, I can just show you quickly and easily what different things look like. So Control-Shift and clicking on any node lets you look at that node specifically. Okay, so I'm going to drag this up a bit. And we're just looking at this. So what it does is it creates this node called a viewer, but it's just an emission shader. So it's the same as if you created an emission shader and plug things in there. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate our Voronoi on the Z 45 degrees, and that lines it up so it's now boxy and square-like. And I might bring my scale up so we've got a bit more to look at. Okay, so you can see using our UVs, we're getting that direction towards the pole like we wanted, okay? It's looking really good. I'm gonna switch this even to constant. Okay, so now we can really see we've got all these little boxes going on. Okay, now we've got some problems here in this area, but don't worry, we're gonna fix that up. So first thing I wanna do is I'm gonna take my scale and I'm going to just drop my scale down. I'm gonna hold down Shift to slow down the speed. And I'm just going to, bring this around to like 0.2, and I might bring this up to something like this, maybe, because we get these like panels. This is sort of the style of the Death Star, is these panels that go up like that. Okay, now, yeah, I know culture. I know it's finally happened. It's yeah. Anyways, I'm not gonna dwell on the fact that I'm using Node Wrangler. Okay, so in order to fix up this area here, let's have a look at what's happening. If I turn off my subdivision surface, we can really see a bit clearer. All right, so basically when we created this little extra circle bit, we really kind of screwed up the UVs. They don't line up in that perfect grid anymore. So in order to fix that, what we want to do is come right over here. I'm gonna go into face mode, into edit mode, and I'm going to hold down Alt and click on one of these edges, and that'll select this loop of faces, which is our problem area. Okay, we're not thinking about this interior section yet. We're just looking at this problem zone. And I'm going to split my view. Where is it? There it is. There it is. Split. And we're going to come over to the UV editor. All right. Now you can see if I hit A to select all, it's going to show me all my views. You can see what's happened. We had this section here with these UVs, and now they're all stretching down to this single point. It's very confused about what's happening. Now, if I just select these guys, I can now unwrap just this group, and we can try and position it so that it sort of disguises the fact that we've got this problem. So I don't have any distortion in this. I'm actually just going to use project from view, but I'm going to hit 5 on my number keypad to switch into orthographic mode. So now there's no perspective in my view. It's just straight. It's just a straight, no depth to it. Nothing's getting smaller as it goes away from camera. I'm going to come over here to UV, and I'm just going to go project from view. Boom. All right. So now I've got this thing here, which now is exactly, it looks exactly like what we've got here. I might try, let's see, does orthographic, we're already in orthographic, so that doesn't matter. I don't think it really matters. Correct aspect. Yep, none of that stuff's going to really give us anything. Okay, so now what we can do is I can come over here, and if I, let's see, if we switch to this mode, UV sync selection, what this means is it means that whenever I select a polygon face over here, it'll select the corresponding UV over here. So it also gives me the ability to see all my unselected UVs, which is what I want. Because what I'm going to do now with this group selected is I'm going to scale them down, and I'm going to bring them over to this little gap. I'm going to try and rotate it up and just kind of place it in here. And I'm going to look at this and see kind of, can I get these guys to line up a bit better? So I might see scale on the X to fill this zone just a little bit more. And it's okay if they don't line up perfectly. It's not going to be perfect. You can get it pretty perfect if you like really tweak these things a lot, but I'm not going to, because of the tutorial, just the amount of time that it would take it's a bit fiddly. And I think it's gonna disguise itself pretty well once we get everything going. So I'm gonna leave it like that. We'll leave it like this for now. We might need to come in and change these a little bit more. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to come over to my little sphere thing, and I can turn on my subdivision surface again. You can see with the subdivision surface, we're getting that tearing. You can see that? How it's like, when I turn it on, they sort of warp a bit. This is why I was thinking we probably shouldn't use a subdivision surface. I'm going to see if we can get away without using it, and as we add our materials and stuff. So I'm also going to select this guy. I'm going to Control Plus to expand my selection, and we're just going to select the eye. I just grab the interior bits, and I'm actually going to separate this out to a separate piece of geometry. So I'm going to hit P and separate by selection. Okay, so now I've got two objects. I've got DeskStar and DeskStar.01, and so 01 is now just this interior bit. So we can actually use this now to, I think this should help us. Like I should be able to go subdivision surface on this one, and that's going to round out this one, and allow us to not round out the other one. And it could work. This may not be a good idea, but I'm not going to mess with the scale or anything just yet. Gives us some options down the track. Either way, it helps break things up and gives us a bit of a sharper edge there, but we want to have that as a separate object. Okay, so for this one now, if I go into edit mode for our other one and I select all these guys, I can leave the same material on, okay? But I'm going to do my UVs a little differently for this one. So they're not unwrapped at all. They're actually all right down in there in this little dot. That's where all my UVs are hiding. I could go UV unwrap, right? It's going to try and unwrap it, and it does a pretty good job. But it's not going to give me something that looks like what I want. So have a look at the DeskStar again. You can see the DeskStar, again, it's that concentric circles going in towards a pole, a center pole, which this time the pole is the center, the eye, right? So we need to figure out how to get that to happen. Now, we could try and unwrap this thing so that it was more of like a cylinder or something. We could try and, add some seams and stuff. But what I found worked just the simplest, the most straightforward way was actually just to unwrap this by using the light matte pack. Now, I'll just click OK on that. So what light matte pack does is it's a way of interacting with game engines. Now, if you've watched my tutorial series, The Bounty Hunter's Den, we've talked a lot about this there. So if you haven't seen that, maybe go check that out. And what we want to do is it breaks out each single polygon face and it separates all of them and it just lays them out for you and fills the space as best as possible. So everything's kind of oriented differently. Each face is, perfectly square, and it gives us this kind of a look. So you can see now all of the different faces are oriented in different directions. But what we can do now is we can take this, we can scale it on the Y, right? And it's going to stretch out that material in a way that starts looking like this center eye bit, right? You can see that we're getting these circles and stuff. You can see the geometry, like when I extruded it and extruded it again, that's actually now played into creating these breakup rings in this by using this kind of a UV unwrap method. So pretty cool, and it works pretty well. So I hope that makes sense. Again, let me know if none of this stuff makes sense or you're having questions. Throw them in chat, put them in the comments, the video below if you're not watching this live, and I'll do my best to answer questions. Yeah, I could save and name objects as time culture, but I mean, that's so conventional. Everyone saves their projects. Like, live on the edge, man. That's, Star 3. I don't save. I never save. There we go. All right. And DeskStar I. Now that you've said that, I've got to do it. All right, let's get back into our material. I'm going to get rid of my UV editor for now. And things are looking pretty good. Okay, so we've got our panels, right? And we may need to tweak these a little bit, but I think this is going to be pretty good. Let's go ahead and plug this into our color. And I'm just going to reconnect this up to the surface. So remember, material output, you take the BSDF and send it through to the surface. And what I want to do is, let's see, I'll move these guys out and I will take the black and I'm going to move it up to like a light gray. And I'll take this white and move it down to a light gray, kind of bring these guys just so they're pretty close. Very Death Star kind of color scheme there. We do have a little bit of an issue here with our UV, but we can fix that once we get all the other materials in place. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to introduce a lot more variation and textures. So you can see there's a lot of density in these squares. There's a lot of like techno stuff going on. So the way we can achieve that is to grab, we're going to grab another Voronoi. And we're going to do the double Voronoi trick. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate all these guys and bring them down. It's good just to duplicate your nodes, reuse them as much as we can. I'll duplicate this one, and I will set this to Manhattan. And we'll set this one to Manhattan as well. And we're going to use the UV, keep all that the same for now, and I'll plug this in here. And I'll show you what this looks like. So we look at this one, right? This is what's going on here. It's stretching it out. Now, if I take this distance value and plug it into the vector of this second one, look at it, we suddenly get this really cool kind of high-tech looking thing going on. Now, if I plug this distance into my color ramp, I can, using constant, right, just like we did up here, there's no fade between the colors. It's a harsh difference between the two of them. And now I can have this, I can get these really nice like defined panels. So what I can do now is I can take my scale and I'm going to bring my scale way up, way up. Because I'm making this I'm really making like a fine, dense pattern that I'm going to use. The second one can make things even denser. Something like this might work. And I think this is going to be pretty good. Now I'm going to feed this into this. We're going to mix these two together. So I'm going to grab a mix RGB. And I'm going to take the color from this one and the color from this one. I'm going to switch this to multiply these colors together. And I'll bring this in now. And now what I can do is I can use this to affect how much this secondary one is going into the system. I might even want to try add. Could give me a better look. Yeah, I think add works a bit better. So you can see it now at play there. It's really giving us this nice breakup that looks very, Death Star techy. Now I can use the same system in my bump. So let me grab these guys, move it. I'm going to create a normal map. Sorry, not a normal map. I'm going to create a bump node, and I'll take this one and I'll plug it into the height, and then I'll take the normal and plug it into the normal. It's going to be way too intense at the start, but if I just drag this strength right down so it's nice and subtle, it's just going to give us a little bit of texture. And we don't want too much because the Death Star is so big that you're not really going to notice all that texture. So that's really what we're going to need to do. Now I can also tweak these a little bit to kind of get it looking just a little bit more like we want it to. I think these panels maybe should be a little bigger. Something like that. That's looking good. All right. Now, next thing we want to do is get that trench in place. Now we could do this procedurally with some nodes, or we could just save time and just grab the edge and loop cut, or just grab that center loop and hit Control B to bevel. I just want to make sure I don't have a modifier in there. Yep. So I just hit Control B to bevel. I'll just drag it out ever so slightly because this trench is like tiny. And then what I can do is I can hit E to extrude. I'm going to go to make sure I'm on global, and I want to go in, but I don't want to go up. So I want to restrict the movement just to the X and Y plane. So I'm going to hit S and then Shift Z, and that's going to turn off scaling on the Z. And it's just going to allow me to scale on the X and the Y. So I can bring this guy in, and I'm just going to bring it in like just the tiniest amount, right? Just a little bit. And now we're getting this weird shading effect, right? And we need to clean that up. We clean that up with some loop cuts. So I'm just going to click here and drag down and Control R to create a loop cut and drag up. So having double edges like this, you can see here we've got this double edge thing going on. That really helps Blender know how to shade things. So now we've got this nice trench and it's working really well. All right, now next up, we want to, let's see. we could start doing the, there's a lot of other stuff we could do. Like you can really take these concepts and keep pushing them to the max and really get some really big detail. There's little details that we're not necessarily getting, like the gray bits. You have these gray sections that kind of block out these darker bits. And we could easily do that with things like the gradient ramp node. But I want to just keep moving to get some of this sort of construction look going on. Let's also let's play with our material settings a little bit too. So I'm going to take the metallic up, and I'm going to take my roughness way up for the Death Star, and my specular as well. I'll bring that up. And that looks pretty good. That gives me the right kind of look. We want to make sure this thing's really rough because it's not going to be reflective. It's not like a, reflective marble in space. It's got this really strong diffuse lighting that happens on it. And the rest of these things I can keep for now. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now the Death Star 2's got this great construction stuff going on. And we're going to create kind of a simplified version of this look. It won't be exactly like this, but I'm trying to teach some concepts here that I hope you get a hold of that you can run with. Actually, let me just say hi to chat real quick. I keep ignoring you guys. See you 4K. If you've already left, bye. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Alt-S scales along normals. You're right. I usually forget to do that. That's a good one. Then doing the Shift-Z thing. And yeah, inset is good as well for that. Yeah, see what's here. CD Arena, thanks for joining. Yeah, it turned out pretty well. The UV unwrap does work a bit better now. Select visually 3D view, they go to UV editor and tell you. Yeah, totally. It's power of UVs. You can just really go nuts, like controlling them and moving them around. I'm gonna see what happens if we. So this doesn't really seem to be doing much for me anymore. If I add a subdivision surface on here, I don't think it's gonna. Yeah, so you can see how it's hiding the same. It's not perfect, but it's definitely definitely works pretty well. Anyways, I don't want to get bogged down. Death Star. Dun, 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 da, da. Okay, so next up, we're going to start doing this construction stuff. So in order to get that to work, I'm just going to get rid of that menu so we can see it a bit clearer. I'm going to keep myself organized and just move all this stuff up here. So this is our color system. Now what we're going to do is create the breakup of the construction. So to do that, we're going to do the basically the same system as this. So what I'm going to do is I will grab all these guys and I'll just Shift D and bring them down here. Okay. Now we want to create. First off, we want it to kind of be going horizontally because you can see here that this construction pattern it's kind of these horizontal lines. There are bits that are going vertically, and we could go really complex and make a shader that does all that. But again, I just want to pass you guys the concepts so you can run with this in your own projects. So first off, let's get this oriented in the right direction. So right now it's up and down. So in order to get this going the other way, we just need to change our scale. So I'll switch this one to 6.8, and I'll switch this one to 0.2. Is that it? Yeah, 0.2. So now it's going the other direction. And let's go ahead and take, let's see. I'm going to take this and I'm going to switch these guys, one of these to black and the other one I'm going to make white. And then I'm also going to take the scale and I might drag it down a little bit so that it's not quite so small. And now these are going to form our construction layers. But we don't want the whole thing to be under construction, right? Now I'll show you the trick that we're going to be doing. So we're going to be taking this, right? And we're going to be piping it into the alpha channel. Now, if you're not familiar, an alpha channel basically, wherever there is white in an alpha channel, it's fully opaque. You can see it. If it's black, it's transparent. You can't see it. In Eevee, to get that to work, we need to come over here to our options and switch our settings. Over here, blend mode from opaque to, I usually go alpha blend, but alpha blend actually isn't going to work very well for us because it doesn't show you the other side of the object really clearly, and you've got to use backface, and you get this bizarre tearing effect where you can kind of see this line through things. So what we need to use is alpha hashed. That's actually going to give us the look that we want. And I'm going to take shadow mode, and I'll do the same thing, alpha hashed on the shadow mode, or even might go none, alpha clip, alpha hashed. Stick it on alpha hashed for now. All right. Now, but we don't want this whole thing to be transparent, right? We want to have a section that's under construction and a section that's complete. This is the complete, that's the under construction. So what we need to do is kind of cut out this shader so that it's not over the whole thing. We just need it to be over like this bit here. So in order to get that kind of control, we need to use two different things. We need to use a gradient texture. Okay, so gradient texture is going to create a gradient from one side to the other. And we don't need to use, we can use the generated one that it uses automatically. I'm going to grab this ramp and I'm going to set this to ease. And now we can kind of control where it's at. And then I also want to take a mapping node. So I'll Shift D, actually, I'll just start fresh with a fresh mapping node. And I can plug this into the vector. And now I need to use the texture coordinate. So even if you're using the default generated coordinate, you need to have this node if you start using mapping, because it just doesn't work. And now what I can do is I could hold down Shift and drag and just kind of, get this thing lined up in a way that kind of matches the overall look of this the construction on the Death Star. So I'm just kind of trying to get a position that will work for us. I think we'll try this. So we kind of want just this part to be under construction. Now we don't want any construction on the eye. So I'm going to take this chance to go ahead and come over here, and I'm going to take my eye and I'm going to click the little paper icon. That's going to make this a new material. So now this is Death Star material.0001. I can call this Death Star eye material. And I'll just go ahead. Stop previewing that shader. And we're not going to use this system for the eye. We're just going to leave this as is for the eye. And I also am going to unplug the alpha there from this guy because we don't need that. So we can just delete this whole system from the eye. So, okay, we're going to come back over to this shader. So now we need to use this to basically cut away this, right? So we've got this one. Got this one, we need to combine them. So let's go Shift A, and we're going to go Mix RGB. And we need to do it in such a way that the black area is going to mask out this, so get rid of it, basically. So what I can do is I can use the multiply function, because if you multiply anything by 0, you get 0. And black is the same as the number 0. So I can plug this in here, turn my factor all the way up. So now it's only going to be on this side. So I can now position this a little bit. But it's also not going to be a perfect gradient, right? Because you can see we get these like sections, these like adding in some noise. So I'm going to add a noise texture. And what I can do is I can insert this noise texture. Where do I want to do it? I can insert it here. If I grab a Mix RGB, I can insert it into the, turn all the way down. Plug this in here. I'm inserting it into the vector information that's helping to place this texture. So you can see as I drag it up, it's going to slowly break up that gradient texture. So I can just do this a little bit and then maybe take the scale down. And that's going to just break this guy up a little bit so it's not completely a completely straight line. But I don't want a lot of detail in it. I want it to kind of be a bit wobbly like this. There we go. All right. Now there's one last part we need, which is we need to have sections that are completely gone. So this is our sort of under construction zone. And then we've got the sections that are going to be completely gone. We also need to invert this because white, remember, with alpha channel means we can see it fully. Right now things are kind of backwards because right now it's saying this is all going to be invisible. We don't want that. All right, so let's see. I'm going to take an invert node, and I'll just stick it here at the end. And now, as you can see, it's inverting things. So let's go ahead and have a look at what that's like in the alpha channel. So I'll bring this over to the alpha channel. We'll just have a look back at this. You can start to see what's happening. We're starting to get this really cool transparent zone. Now we need to increase it. So I can take, let's see, I can bring it out a little bit. Bring this in a touch. Like this. All right, so now we need to like create some more sections of this that are really broken up. So we really need one more noise texture. So I'm gonna bring this over here. And we're gonna use this noise texture and a color ramp to cut out sections. So I'll drag this out here. And we want to use this to just cut out areas. So I'm just going to multiply this over this final result. So I've got this here. I'm going to, let's see, which one do I want to multiply it on? I want to cut out from this one. So we're going to mix these guys before we bring it into this section here. So I'm going to just get another multiply node, drag this here, and drag this here. This should work. Yep. So now we're getting this breakup. Now, that's actually not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Let me do this again. Delete that. So we've got this, we got this. I want to keep this. And then I just want to subtract from this. Yeah. So not multiply. So if I duplicate this, and I go subtract, bring this up. Let's see what this is going to give me. And then if I grab texture coordinate, get a mapping node, bring this in here, generated to the vector, vector into the vector. Let that catch up. Now I can move this group around and basically kind of sculpt with it and pick an area that I want to get rid of. Now this part's pretty fiddly because you just kind of have to move this noise around in 3D space until you get something that you're happy with. So let's go ahead and have a look at what it's looking like in our main shader. So I'll just come over here. There we go. Now we are getting it over this side. So I just have to be a bit careful with that. I think that has to do with, let's see. Sorry, this is actually the hardest part of the whole thing, so I just might have to do this twice to get it just right. Let me see, what was the order that I did in my test run? This. I did mapping Verona, Verona. And this is a horizontal system. And then I took this and then I used my noise texture and I multiplied it with my gradient texture. Yeah, multiply was what I did. It wasn't subtract, it was multiply. And what was the difference? Yeah, no, that's right. And then I can just change the scale here, I think. How to get the maybe I do need that power node. Gradient texture, gradient texture. Let me just try something real quick. Math. Oops. I'll explain this in a second. I'm going to go power. And it did. Yeah, that's not going to do it either. I didn't think so, but you know, I just have to try. All right. All right, let me do that again and explain it. And then I'm also going to get rid of all that. And so I'm just doing this, trying to do this twice because I'm recording it so I can edit into a tutorial. So that's what's going on. Say hi to you guys. Hello. All right. Did I explain this bit? I did explain this bit. Yep. And now I talked about how we need to break this. And then, oh, that's right, because I don't need that yet. That's why that's acting weird. There we go. All right. Cool. All right, so now we've got the ramp that's breaking this thing up a little bit, and we can actually then break it up even further and create even more of these kind of intricate construction zone areas by taking the system that we built here, this Voronoi system. So I'm just going to take all this, I'm going to grab it all, I'm going to Shift D, and what we're going to do is take this down here and use this system in the same way that we're using this noise, actually. In fact, we might even be able to replace the noise. I'll just have a look. So I'll drag this into here. And what this does is basically it's taking this gradient node and it adds even more of the construction stuff in it. So it kind of breaks it up. I'll show it to you directly. So we were just to look at this right here. This is where it'll show it to you. It's a bit dark. There we go. So if I turn this off, right, it's just straight gradient. But as I begin to introduce this in, it's distorting the UVs or distorting the texture coordinates with this system that we built, so that it's very it's got that same breakup. All right. Anyways, so come back over here, look through that. All right. Now we need to cut away some sections. So what we can do is we can take a noise texture, get rid of this. And so I'm going to go Shift A, and I'm going to create a noise texture like that. And let's just have a look at this guy. I'm going to take my scale down, and I'm going to grab one of these, drag it here. So we can do a color ramp just to kind of make it really a bit stronger in the contrast. And drag this down. You can see we get these nice, like, kind of curved sections again. And what we can do is same kind of thing here. So we can take another mix RGB and a texture coordinate and a mapping node, just like so. Generate it into the vector, vector into the vector. Let's move these guys down here just to get a little bit more room. And this mix shader, drag this over here. And what we can do is we can do the same deal we were doing before. So drag this in here, take this distance and pop it in here as well. So now this also has that cool system to it. And then what we can do is we can move it around, and we're just looking for creating a sort of a black area. Change up some of this stuff here, something like this. And now what we can do is we can take this and multiply it in with this system. So it's going to cut out even more. So we come right to here, and let's see, just double check this system. Yeah, so we want to multiply it over here. So let's take this, Shift D, Stick that there, pipe this into this. And now, there we go. So now we've got this area over here. I'll look at the inverted version. This over here is going to be solid. This is all going to be solid. And then this is going to be, hang on, did I still not do that right? I think this needs to go, does this need to go after? No, it doesn't need to go after. Why is this doing my head in today? Say hi to everybody. That's awesome. Thanks, Lucas. I'm glad you enjoyed that. So that cyberpunk tutorial was like a complete disaster. So that's good. Glad you're enjoying this culture. All right. Sorry. I will. There's probably like half of you watching this, and it's obvious what I need to be doing right now. I'll just tell you that. I just need to say it because that makes me panic. I think everyone knows what I should be doing right now, and I'm not doing it. I'll say it out loud so it doesn't bother me. What I'm going to do is I want to have a section of this to be black, and I want this to be white. So I need this to fade into a black zone, which means I think maybe this invert node is what's messing me over. Yeah, because if I take, where's my this bit? So we invert this, and then add it to this. That's going to give us the control we want. Yeah. Okay, so let me unmute that. And instead of saying that we need to multiply this in, I'm going to just redo that, pipe that back over here, delete that node. And I'll come back over here. Okay. Now we have to think really carefully about what we're trying to accomplish here. And we need to basically take this system, because we like this breakup. We like this big black area. We're going to have transparency. This is all working really nicely where, we're going to have construction areas kind of coming in and intersecting. And then we've got this bit, which is going to say, look, this is the bit that we want to have solid. So let's invert this bit right here. Actually, I'll just have a look at, yeah, we're going to skip that. So I'm going to invert this guy. So I'm going to grab an invert node, pipe this into here. So now this is inverted. And now I can grab a mix RGB node. And I can take this system and this system, and we're going to add. And that's still not quite doing it. Why? Oh, it's because I need to clamp it. Cool. Now, when you bring this add node in here, you just need to clamp them, and that way you can get pure white out here. Otherwise, you're going to get sort of super values, numbers that go above 1 or below 0. But if we clamp it, we're just restricting everything to 1 and 0. So if we get anything that's kind of over that, then it works out okay. So anyways, now this system right here becomes the one that we want to use for our alpha. So I'll bring this into the alpha, like here. And I can get rid of this. And we actually didn't end up using that. We got it to work with just this system here. So that's pretty good. Now let's have a look at it. There we go. So now we got this nice big kind of open area in our shader where we've got the construction that's going on. And we can further kind of refine this and get it to look good now that we see it. I'm going to jump into my camera, and we're going to come here, and I'm going to just play around with how these things are all mixed in. And now all these sliders kind of become the way you can control the effectiveness of this illusion that we're creating. These scales of the different Voronoi change the way that breakup happens, and it gives us a really nice result. Now, we can also change the scale of that noise texture to introduce different areas that are under construction. But you get the idea. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool little technique. Then we can move this around. Now, the next step to making this thing really look cool is we need to have the interior. I might even take this. Sometimes we go constant. Is that going to give me? Yeah, that's kind of cool too. So many ways of playing with it. Maybe move it up a bit. I gotta be careful. I don't want to go into tweak zone. Yeah, let's not get crazy. I'll let you guys get crazy in your own when you mess with this in your own time. Look at me, I can't resist. I'm like being sucked in. Can't resist the dark side. Oh, thanks, Kay. I appreciate that. That's encouraging. Everything procedural. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, so we got this cool construction system going on. Now we need to have the internal area because I actually have these like levels, right, that are being built inside, and I can't resist. I gotta show you how to do that. Up, so it's larger than our Death Star. I'm gonna come over to modifiers. I'm gonna add an array modifier, and I'm gonna move up on the Z. Actually, I'm gonna go constant offset. Let's jump into shaded mode so we can see it. Here we go. Constant offset, and we're going to go up maybe, I don't know, 0.9, less than that. Let's bring that down a touch. I'll just drag this up till it covers our Death Star. Now I'm going to create another array modifier, and I'm going to go constant as well, and I'm going to go -1. Drag that down. Just basically duplicating that whole system, but sending it in the opposite direction. Move it a little bit so it's kind of even, and yep, that works. All right, so now we have a bunch of planes, right? Now what we can do is let's just go ahead and apply these, and let's create a new material for this. And this is going to be our levels. I'll go into shader mode, and you might be thinking, how on earth are we going to get constructed levels in a Death Star with something like this? Well, let me show you. We're going to go to our Death Star material, and we're going to copy our handy dandy Voronoi texture. Come back over to the plane material here. Find our node group, paste it. Whoops, there we go. Bring them up here. Leave those guys there for a second. We're going to grab a gradient texture, and we're going to switch it to spherical. Okay. And I'm going to Shift D, and I'm going to put the object coordinates into it. And then I'm going to grab a color ramp, pipe this into here, and then I'm going to take this and stick it into the alpha. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to turn on alpha. We'll try alpha blend for this one. And alpha hashed, let's say. And now what I can do is I can drag this guy in. I can switch it to constant. And now look at that. This gradient texture lives in 3D space. So by applying it on an object that has different levels of 3D space, it's actually just using the coordinates of every part of this to shade that sphere. And by using it on our alpha channel, we basically have created this like leveled sphere thing that fits perfectly inside our Death Star. How cool is that? Now we do have to kind of bring it down a little bit because of that it popping in the eye. We might want to like drag it out on the X just a touch so that it, feels like it works proportionally. But now what we can do is we can also then take this system right here, come here, Shift D, this color ramp, pipe the distance into that, stick this into the base color for this guy. And now we've got the same basic system. We need to change the scale because it's way too small, but you can see it working there. You can see all that happening. Could we rotate it? No, we'll keep it at 45. And I could also drag this around. Can increase that scale up maybe to 7 or something. We can play with that anyways until we can get basically these cool constructed zones for our Death Star. Now we can't quite see it. It's too small. It ends up just appearing like noise. So we can get around that by bringing down the scale on this. Until it looks about, just looks interesting. There we go. So we got those levels. Now we can even go further than this. Grab all these guys, drag this out, grab a noise texture. And we can use this noise texture to break up the levels even further, right? So I can come here and I can Shift D, pipe this into the factor. We can go for a mix RGB. And I can switch to multiply and pipe this in, turn the factor up, and then bring the scale down. And you can see what's happening is that we're actually getting sections cut away. So now we've got some areas that are under construction and some areas that are not. And it's fully transparent. Anyways, very cool, epic stuff there. We're getting a lot of shadows and stuff cast as well in there. Like if I was to grab a light, point light, bring it down here, turn it right up, kind of help us see this a little bit better. So you can see here if I do something like that, maybe. You could also put a mapping node in here and move it around. I might increase my scale a touch. And I also want to take this off white and black because I feel like white and black is just a bit too strong. Something like this. Increase the metallic up and the specular maybe make the floors really rough. And we could also give it a bump, which is a good idea. All right. Yeah, you could add a wireframe, Francisco. That's a good idea. We need more geometry in this to make it really work. We could also use this whole system to like make more transparency in this and actually have these floors be kind of transparent, have transparent sections like blocks, like it's under construction. Add a bump. And let's grab this guy here, pipe this into the height and into the normal. See what this looks like. Actually, we might need this one. That's right. So we want the color, the base color to be driving that bump. So now you can see we're getting like these little bumpy sections, which is pretty sick. Anyways, very, very, very cool stuff. Death Star. Now, it's not perfect, okay? So there's things about this that aren't working very well for us right now, like there's that subtle fade here. So we probably need to tweak those values a bit so that it's not, so that it looks a little better. It doesn't just look like a misty fade. Also, our constructed floors could probably use a bit more detail in terms of the alpha channel. Like we could easily pipe in the system that we have here, the double Voronoi, into that. To add to even more transparency and get that going. In fact, why don't we just have a look at what that looks like right now? If I was to look at that, I think it's this one. I think we just need to multiply it in. So if I just grab a second multiply node and drag it there, it's now going to include this in our transparency. So yeah, you can see it gives us just a little bit more breakup. We could also take this off of UV and stick it to, let's see, possibly object or even generated, which will give us different noise patterns on each floor. I could take this and move it around a bit. Now it is sort of a bad idea to do a color ramp for color and for alpha because white and black affect things differently. So if I should probably turn this one up to white and plug this into here. And then this one can be our color for it. That way we can make things dark without affecting the transparency overall. And I'll come back over here to this guy and maybe adjust some of these values. Anyways, I could tweak this all day. It's pretty cool. Looks really nice. Anyways, I hope you really enjoyed this and got some really, really good tips and tricks on how to make something like this happen. I should probably finish it off by parenting that and parenting this to that. Right, like this. There we go. And then take this guy and we need to rotate him like that because it's the Death Star. And it's always on the rotation. Like so. Maybe bring that around a little bit. And finish off our image with, drag that to here, drag this to here. I need to clean it up a little bit. There's some transparency see through, but again, I'm just showing you the ideas so that you can play with this. Yep. And then we should probably let's finish off our scene. Go to shader editor. Go to the world. And grab a let's see, a volume scatter. Make it a little bit blue. Density down to 0.01. Anisotropy down to negative 0.978, something like that. Go over to my 3D viewport. And now I can take my little point light, grab it off to the side, crank it up to 1000. And I've got that nice little ambient glow kind of going on. Make it a little bluish. Grab it on the X maybe so that it's affecting like the backside. If we made it kind of greenish, would that look like indoor? Yeah. Blue looks a bit better. And make our radius pretty smallish or bigger. Yeah, big looks good. And then I might swing over to my shader editor. Now I'm just having fun. Bring my anisotropy up a touch. Not that much. Don't want to lose that space feel. And I'll lock my camera to view. Push in a bit more. Find a nice little shot for us here. Something I always do kind of at the end of an image when I'm looking for a nice composition, I always add these in in space. I always add in some kind of volumetric light, even though it doesn't make sense logically. The effect of it is really worth it, I find. And also throwing in little bits of color into my sun lamps. All that does a lot to really kind of boost an image. And let's see if I grab him on the X. So you can see how it really like helps to break out the image from that background because space is so dark. You can always keep one of these in the shot as well, you know. Like that's not half bad. Might turn down the brightness a bit on it. Maybe grab our planes here and grab them out a little bit so it looks like a bit more like construction. And if we scale it on the Z. I switch back to my shader. That's no moon. And now I'm just, I'm not thinking about realism. I'm thinking about like what it actually is made of. I'm actually just thinking about how do I make it show up better in my shot. So I'm really now just painting basically. And now I'm going to take this group. Oops, he's intersecting a bit too much there. Just need to move him back. I don't mind a bit of intersection. I think it's kind of cool, to be honest. And then I feel like this system here, like I need to bring, where's my gradient texture at? Verona, gradient. There you are. Like I need to move. Move that over a touch. Actually, no, because then I'm losing it on the other side there. This should be constant, I think. That it's like definitely on or definitely off. And I might increase the amount of... So you can see when you build a cool shader network like this, you're basically giving yourself palette or a palette of like tools that you can use to make something really interesting. And the artistry comes from how far you push it, how long you play with it. It's pretty essential for you know, getting this kind of thing to look good. Something like that looks pretty good. anyways, there we go. Some cool ideas, some cool things. Anyways, hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. Hope you learned some really cool tricks. And actually, you could push this a lot further and really try and get it to a place where it's like spot on from the movie. But you can see all these things are working together to create some really nice effects and give you a really cool, interesting result. So anyways, good luck with your project. Hope you have a lot of fun messing with these skills and yeah, playing with this stuff on your own. I will catch you in the next tutorial. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We can also join now and get access to some cool perks. You can check that out. Check out the Patreon as well, where you can get access to all the uncut live streams and all the project files, and everything's over there. So it's really, really worth your time. So have a look at that. Cool. All right. Sorted. Stop my recording. Stop recording. It was an hour and a half. It's going to make it long. Oh man, thanks, Groby. Nice seeing those emojis in there. Yeah, thanks. I think it looks all right. I'm not too happy with it. Like, to be honest, like I'm kind of a bit like, it's all right. There's stuff that could be better about this, but it's a really tricky thing to try and make. I mean, like it's really, really tricky. But overall, I think it's kind of a cool shader. Like, yeah, look at all that. I like it. It's I should be happy with that. That's cool. Anyways, I hope you have fun playing with it. Thanks for turning up, everybody. It was really fun to everybody here, and really fun to share this stuff with you. Just checking on. I wasn't able to like look at anybody's comments today. So focused. But yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks to. Let's see. I went from some cool ideas in here. You guys always have better ideas than I do when I read the chat. I'm like, oh, I should have done it that way. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. No culture, you're my hero. Yeah, I know. Only half the length of the last stream. Last stream was like 3 hours long. Anyways, I got stuff to do. I got to get to work. Thanks so much for joining me today, everybody. Really fun to do a stream with you. I'll put this stream up on the Patreon, and I'll put it up for channel members at the second tier. So if you want to rewatch, that's how you can get a hold of it. And for everybody else, just keep an eye out. I'll have this tutorial edited into a proper tutorial, and we'll have that up hopefully next week if all things go well. And I don't know if I'm going to change the stream again this week. Tomorrow's going to be kind of busy. I need to do the next part of our Epic Space Battles series, so that's the next thing for us on the list. Really excited about jumping into that. So yeah, awesome, Fusebox. Thanks, appreciate it. Glad you like it. Thumbs up, everybody. Like and subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Gosh, isn't that YouTube thing like just gets so annoying? Seriously, I never thought I'd be the one saying it like every day. Anyways, awesome. Thanks, everybody. Hang on, I gotta do one of my